Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Lucy and Tim Show. So why the second episode? Well, after recording the first one on Zoom, we decided let's try and take it up market. So we decided to record it on the riverbank. But it was awful, wasn't it, Lucy?
Bad.
It was glitchy. I thought Lucy had stopped speaking, so I spoke and she hadn't finished and vice versa. And it was like awful, wasn't it? So we're back on Zoom.
Yeah. Oh. You actually thought it was a miracle that I'd stopped speaking?
Maybe I found a way to stop you speaking.
Maybe.
On the riverbank.
Do you think there is a way to stop me speaking?
Maybe answers on a postcard in the comments to the video. Is there a way to shut up Lucy Buxton politely? In the comments, come on. People put comments on our video on YouTube, please. We'd like to know what you think of these. We'd also like to know what would you like us to talk about?
Yeah.
Because we talk about common sense, about care. And today we're going to talk about culture.
We are. But before we move on, I'd like answers in the comments, not only how to shut Lucy Buxton up, but would you like Lucy Buxton to shut up? Yes or no?
I don't think they're brave enough, Lucy.
I'd like to see them try. Anyway, culture, come on. Tell me, what do you know?
What do I know about culture? I know that it's important. I know that it's something that CQC and other regulators are very concerned about. In fact, I was reading a CQC inspection report at 4 o'clock this morning, as you do, don't you? When you can't sleep because the dog needs to get up and needs a wee, and then you're in the wide awake club, and there are men down the end of your garden with chainsaws.
At 4 in the morning?
They cut the trees down. They have to close the railway line. Come on, you know this. We talked about trees.
Okay.
Men with chainsaws. Anyway, I'm reading this CQC inspection report to send me off to sleep. And there was a comment in the well-led bit, and it said the provider was not aware that a closed culture had developed. So my conclusion, I'm going to use a posh word now, Lucy, is that closed culture is insidious. Posh word, isn't it?
It is.
For those of you that don't know what that means, sorry, I've just insulted you. That just means sneaky, stealthy.
Can you spell it?
IT. No, of course I can't spell it. I've got dyslexia. That's cool.
Yeah, but I'm dyslexic too, so I can get away with asking you that question.
INSIDIOUS.
Glad you did it, because I'd have to write it down.
Well, I could say anything, aren't I? Because if you're dyslexic, I could just say anything. You wouldn't know.
Exactly.
So bad culture, closed culture can just sneak up on a service without them realizing it. So I think it's really important that leaders, managers, team leaders actively think about what is an open good culture, what is a closed bad culture, and take steps to stop a closed culture developing. So what do you know?
So for me, reflecting on what you've just said, you need to know what a good or bad culture looks, sounds, feels, smells like. Absolutely. Yes. So my youngest went off to an interview this morning.
On a Sunday?
On a Sunday. Okay. It happened to be with a social care provider.
The poor social care provider. I feel sorry for them now.
Well, I do after I heard how the interview went. But what was really interesting was that I had an interesting conversation with my daughter, and she said, I think they've probably got a closed culture, Mum.
You've been talking to your daughter about your work again.
Well, don't forget my daughter has seen the other side of the coin, so she knows what bad cultures in care looks like. Okay. But there were a couple of comments that the person interviewing her said to her.
Are we allowed to share the comments?
She said some of the people that used their services were arrogant.
Oh. It's a bit labelling, a judgmental, isn't it?
It didn't quite sit right with my daughter. And there were just comments around the fact of the way she referenced that she needed to deal with the staff that had left a couple of crumbs on the table.
Deal with the staff.
Mm.
She's going to do, make them sit in the corner?
Exactly.
Like, I must not leave crumbs on the table.
Mm. She made comments to my daughter like, you don't seem to be that bothered or invested in this job. She even went on to say, what do you intend to do in 2 years' time? So my daughter shared, I want to be a tattoo artist. That's what I want to do. Oh, so you're not going to stay here, then you're obviously not coming for the long term. And the negative, not empowering, not encouraging, motivating approach, that it was not that.
So not nurturing.
Yeah, not nurturing. It indicated to my daughter that there was something there she might not like.
So is your daughter chosen not to work for that employer?
Absolutely, 100%.
And you're biased, obviously, because she's your daughter, but have they lost someone who, for 2 years, until she started drawing pictures all over people, would have been a valuable employee?
Massively so, yeah. Massively so.
And may not ever have left to pursue a career as a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Because sometimes social care gets you under the skin, doesn't it? Did you see my joke then? Come on, Lucy.
I did. It's very good. Skin tattoo art.
Oh, come on, you didn't even notice, did you?
Yeah, no, but you're clever, Tim. You're cleverer than me. So what can I say?
I worked hard on that, and you didn't even realise I did a joke.
No, I did. It's just that I just don't need to laugh all the time at your jokes, because you're just, So yeah, come on, let's talk a bit more about culture. So I thought that was quite interesting, that on the other side of the coin, how easy it is when you know what to look for, how you can pick up less positive cultures, but when potentially people are working in them, how they may not even be aware.
I did an audit of a nursing home once, and I wrote in my report that the culture was toxic. I also wrote that it was being run like it was 1984. And one of the staff members wanted to talk to me during my audit. So I took her into a quiet room. And then I realized that 3 of the nurses were outside the door with their ears pushed up against the door. And I caught them.
Interesting.
But it was one of those places where people were toileted after lunch. Where a gentleman, I remember this gentleman because he was decorated for being in the Merchant Navy in the Second World War, and he had an award. And he was ringing his bell because he wanted a drink, and no one was coming. So I switched it to emergency, and someone came. I said, he needs a drink. Oh, it's not his turn. I mean, that's just not bad culture. That's abusive. Guess what happened to the nursing home?
Well, I'm kind of going to suggest that it got closed.
It got closed. But I know that nursing home, about 15, 18 months before, had been sold for 3.5 million. I also know that it subsequently got sold for 1.25 million. So culture costs cash.
Yes.
I've got to get it right. Closed culture costs cash.
Closed cultures also damage lives.
Very true. Damage people.
Damage people.
I mean, that experience your daughter had could have put her off social care forever.
Well, actually, strangely, she actually made a very informed decision about that. And she said, Mum, you know what? A job in a care environment is just not for me.
What is put her off social? Ah, that's sad.
But we have to remember that is on her background of having been in hospital with a closed culture. So for her, she went along with a view to, oh, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to give her a try before a buy kind of thing. But that's just showing her another example.
So she went with an open mind, and their closed culture slammed the door on our open mind.
Absolutely, it did.
I'm good with the sound bites tonight, aren't I?
You are. You're
Come on,
on form, aren't you?
I am.
You're on form.
I've
So,
had proper, I've
Tim,
had proper food today.
you've had what?
Proper food today.
Ah,
Because I've been at home, haven't I? So I haven't been living on rabbit food in hotels.
yeah, yeah. Or
'Cause I'm on a
noodles
diet.
made in the kettle.
3 kilograms lost in 12 days.
Okay.
That's a lot. That's half a stone in 12 days.
It is.
Good, isn't it?
It is good, but I would also suggest that yeah, you get a drastic weight loss, I guess, initially at first, don't you? But I would also think probably a slightly slower one, because we want to make sure that Tim is okay.
It was perfectly fine. Liked them on my feet. Went for a 90-minute walk yesterday. Walked down the street I've not walked down for 40 years.
That's incredible.
I walked the way I used to walk home from college.
How did it feel?
Student land looks as bad as it ever used to, except it's got more fridges in front gardens. And there are less pubs.
Okay, that's not a good thing.
And more vape shops.
That's not a good
That's progress.
thing.
And I went for a 90-minute walk today, but I only walked in my cellar on the exercise machine.
So, Tim, you're telling me that you're prioritizing self-care and that you are placing a value in yourself. So, as part of a culture, a good culture, do you think supporting and empowering staff to prioritize their well-being and their self-care is a positive thing?
I think it's an essential thing, especially if it's a CQC registered service, because one of those single assessment framework quality statements is workforce enablement, isn't it? And caring for your workers' well-being. And I used to be a social care employer, as people know, but if you don't look after your staff, you have no service. The end. It's the thing that social care providers spend the most money on. We don't look after our staff. What are we going to sell? Nothing. But managers and leaders have got a really important role to play, haven't they? Because they are the ones that have to lead by example. They are the ones that have to set the tone, set the culture. They've got to set the standard, maintain the standard, lead by example. But also they've got to notice when it goes well and when it goes wrong. They've got to guide people. And it's like the old broken window syndrome, isn't it? You know, you let something go and it suddenly becomes okay. And I think I'm going to be a bit controversial now. I think sometimes people who manage service don't get up close and personal to care as often as they should do.
I don't think that's controversial, Tim. I think that's fact.
I think loads of people are going to say that, oh yeah, but we've got audits and invoices and stuff to do. Yeah, you have got all that stuff to do. But if you don't go and watch the most important thing, which is person-to-person interactions, it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad.
It's also about doing it with a clear lens, a good perspective. So as leaders, what do we, what's that thing that's part of culture that people model?
I have no idea what you're talking about now. But the thing that popped into my head then was Lego. But it's not Lego, is it? Why did Lego come into my head then?
We were talking about modeling.
I know, but Lego came into my head then. And Lego's got nothing to do.
No, hang on, Tim. Now you're onto something here. So we're talking about the building blocks of really good cultures.
Well, I could quote a bit of theory at you now. Hertzberg. I could do Hertzberg's rocket. That's about building blocks, isn't it? Lucy's confused. Are you confused?
So you see, I'm still on Lego and building blocks, and I'm just waiting for you to explain about the rocket, but I want to talk more about building blocks. So what do we think about values? Are they a building block?
We see people's behavior, don't we? But behavior is formed by our attitudes. And our attitudes come from our values. and our values come from our beliefs. But when we try to change behavior, we tell people to do something differently. We tell them to do it like this, like that. And maybe they will, but only because we've used our power and exerted it. But if we really want to change their behavior, we've got to look at their value base. And one of the things I'm really keen that people who work in social care do is don't just do values-based recruitment. We need to do values-based retention as well. And we need to talk about values. We need to talk about culture in team meetings. We need to talk in surveys with staff, surveys with people that use our service. And we need to talk about it in supervisions and appraisals, don't we? Because I love to see a supervision with reflective practice. Give me an example of when. Because that makes people really think, doesn't it, about their practice and why they did something a certain way.
Do you think that as people, we actually spend enough time looking at what our individual values are?
That's a closed question, isn't it? So I'm going to answer with a closed answer. No.
Okay. So when we set up a business and we write a mission statement or a vision, or we think about our values, do you think they're just written, or do you think people actually go through a really clever questioning process to be able to identify what those values are and what they
just written because it looks good in a business plan?
Okay. So if it looks good in a business plan, and that's what they are, but they actually, those values are actually values that we intrinsically hold as people, do you think then that there would be a mismatch potentially between the way we lead if our values aren't actually what we've written down?
It's like saying you're going to do one thing, but believing you should do another, isn't it? Your heart won't be in it, will it? And I'm going through that at the moment because I'm collaborating on a project now where we've had to write a business plan. And thinking about why we're doing it is really important. But unlike a lot of businesses, it isn't about making money. It's about making a difference.
So obviously making a difference is quite high up for you in either your beliefs or, you know, if we were to kind of...
It is at the age of 57, but it wouldn't have been at 37. You change as you get older, don't you?
Yeah. And also...
I realise that I'm evolving as a human being. And I think one of the things that matters to me, and this sounds really, really big-headed, I want to have been worth it in a tiny, tiny way. I know any award, I'm not into awards, by the way. I'm going to an award ceremony on Thursday. I'm not into awards. That's good, isn't it? I go with one of my clients. Okay. They're a domiciliary care provider and they entered 7 awards and they got through to 7 finals.
It's fabulous.
So I'm going to wear a penguin suit in Cardiff on Thursday. I have a range of trousers to wear in different sizes.
Okay, yeah, because it might be that you might be 2 kilograms further down by Thursday, hopefully not.
Yeah, could be, possibly. So, yeah, I changed. I mean, what about you? Has your value base changed over?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a natural thing to happen in life. And I think this is something that people need to reflect on because it will answer certain questions for businesses. Our values change when we go through events in life, when things happen. So we can see across the world at the moment, and certainly if we look at social care, we look at the NHS, we can see that there's a value shifts. Never have we seen as many care professionals, doctors, nurses saying, I'm going on strike. And that's because they're shifting their values. We're seeing so much more knife crime now. That again is a shift in the values. We saw a shift in the values of population through COVID. And you would have had a lot of people that it was in their values to follow the rules and do as they were told. Whereas now, what have we seen this weekend? Massive amounts of people in big cities, out on the streets, putting out their opinion and saying, this goes against what my values and beliefs are. So we're seeing change. And when, say, for example, you know, the world's going through this less easy time with finance, apparently, that will influence people's values. So if you relate that to a care service and you've got a lot of people who are going through a lot of life events and experiences, you'll find that their behavior changes, which then potentially, if you don't support them, if you don't empower them, if you as a leader are worrying about your EBITDA and your bottom line, then your behavior will change, which will mean the behavior of the staff around you will change.
Very true. And values have a direct impact on the level of compliance in your service.
Massively, they do.
Massively so.
So, Tim,
if you've got the right people thinking in the right way, knowing what they do, you can have a good service. Good service will mean you're sustainable, financially viable. It actually is really simple.
it is. If you recruit through values that align with your business and you've gone through a correct process to work out what they are in the first place, building blocks, they're all building blocks. Get your little bits of Lego out and start by putting one piece down. Don't go chucking them all together and seeing which way they fall on the floor, because I promise you, you won't be able to build anything, and it certainly won't be sustainable.
See, you worked the Lego in quite well, didn't you? You did. That was good. I'm impressed with that.
Oh, well, you see, I'm the queen of metaphors and analogies, you see.
Is that a metaphor?
I think it's more of an analogy, not a metaphor.
I thought it was an analogy,
a metaphor
yeah.
1 week.
And neither of us can spell analogy or metaphor, so it doesn't matter, does it?
So you know what, Tim? Before we end, because I love your company, but I'm sure the wife wants your company more than I need your company.
She's watching Strictly Come Dancing.
Is she?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I've just gone back to me as a 7-year-old on a Saturday morning, going and doing ballroom and Latin American lessons.
Okay.
There you go.
Did you do it after the age of 7, or was that it? You just went once?
No. I think I did it for a few years, but I think I probably gave it up about 11 or 12 when I went off to be an air cadet at 13. And then I started getting into planes and shooting rifles and night exercises and going in helicopters at night and really crazy weird stuff. And then
that sounds a bit like a game show, doesn't it?
Yeah,
dancing and cadets.
Yeah. I learned to fly a glider at 16 as well.
Can you still fly a glider?
No, I do you know, if I was on an aeroplane and they said the captain and the co-pilot have collapsed, I think I'd probably put my hand up and go, I might be able to help, but I can't guarantee I'll get you on the ground.
No, you definitely get them on the ground. Definitely, guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll be alive, but they definitely be on the ground. Okay, you can definitely, that's 100% guaranteed. Not in one piece, though.
Oh, Tim, so come on, what's your takeaway?
What's my takeaway? That if you want a good culture in your service, you need to start by looking at your own values as a leader and a manager. And you need to talk to your staff about their values, and you need to make sure all of those things are reasonably well aligned. I don't think perfect alignment is possible. I think it's not like a straight line, it's a spectrum.
So if we were to say, as a care provider, you need to place value in your values.
That would be good. That would be better than what I said.
No, I just think I've pre-framed it in a different way.
You're doing coaching on me again, guys.
I'm not
You are.
I'm not coaching.
Why are you coaching me?
Who I am.
You are. Behave. Stop it. Right? Right. Do you want to do the end bit now?
I will, yeah. So here we are. End of episode 2. And I think it's a wrap. So if you've liked, click the like. And if you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you for watching the Lucy.
Bye.